Good morning. So it's been a little while since I made the last video. In that time, I've been doing quite a lot of work, off camera really. The big thing is I've been getting all of the insulation installed on the ceiling, finished off the walls, and then put the foil insulation on the ceiling. So that's what I've been doing. Also taping it up. Got a few little bits left still to tape. I actually just ran out of foil tape to do that. And then yesterday I started installing the stud work for the walls. So let me just quickly show you that. So this is the stud work which I installed yesterday. And that goes, I've just started putting the second row of noggins in there. And it's going to go all the way around, obviously, all of the walls. And then I've got some plasterboard here, or drywall as they call it in the States. That's going to go on the wall all the way around as well. I'm not putting any plasterboard or drywall on the ceiling. It's just going to stay as it is. The other thing I've done is I've started to install the electrics. I've put the lighting circuit in. I bought one of these LED lights at the Brico. They're about 75 euros each. Not terribly bright, to be honest. So what I've done is I put provisions in to put another one in there. I just wanted to test them first before I bought them, because some LED lights flicker on camera. So I just wanted to make sure it was okay. I'm filming it now and it doesn't really flicker terribly. I think I'm not sure if it's flickering at all, but it's not. I've had some LED lights in the past where you know, they just flicker terribly when they're on camera. So I just wanted to check before I bought 3 of them. Anyway, I'm quite happy with the way it looks. So yeah, so I'm going to get 2 more. One to go at the end here, another one to go there. I'm also installing junction boxes. So I'm going to have a junction box there and also a junction box here. Because what I want to do, let me bring the camera around. So what I want to do here is, because obviously I'm going to be doing a lot of filming YouTube videos in here and demonstration videos, creating the whole house battery here. It's going to be taking many hours, many days, probably many months to complete the project. So to make the YouTube videos, I need some really good lighting. So I need some studio lighting in here. So I'm going to be putting some poles above here and putting some proper studio lights in here. And I thought I was going to lay an extra cable just for the studio lights. And I just thought, actually, I'm overcomplicating things. It's all LED lights, very low voltage anyway. Well, it's not low voltage, the same voltage, but low wattage. It's not like in the old days when we had tungsten lights. So what I thought I'd do is I just tap into the lighting circuit, which is why I've put junction boxes here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a junction box in here, and then out of that junction box I will put probably a power strip of like 4 or maybe even 6 power strip sockets, just basic plug sockets, but just for lighting. So I can plug in the lighting. So I'll either do that, or maybe I'll just put in some dedicated sockets with a switch down here on the wall, so that when I'm making a video I can just turn on the studio lights individually, have individual switches for them. You know, back in the day, theatre days, you know, we had like a dimmer board. Yeah, I don't need all that. It's overcomplicating things. So I might just have a basic on-off switch for the studio lights. I think that will probably be the best way to do it. So down here, what we've got is I'm going to have a counter all the way along here. Obviously, if you're watching this video in the future and you've come back to the beginning of my YouTube videos, you'll know what this counter looks like. But I wanted there to be like a work counter, so I've gone for the same height work counter as I have in my kitchen. So this is the row of noggins here is the height of the counter. So obviously there's the thickness of the counter to go on top of that. So my thought was, well, I can build a unit all the way along here, and then I can screw it to the wall. So I wanted the noggins to be the same height as the counter to give me something to screw against. I really don't like it when people put, you know, I didn't want to create a petition wall with noggins which were all over the place. I wanted everything to be neat. Going a little bit OCD on this, I suppose. Dave thinks this is the most over-engineered workshop ever because it's so insulated in here, and EMP proof as well. I'm making sure all of my noggins are in straight lines. But this, I mean, this makes things so much simpler. If you have all your noggins perfectly straight, all exactly the same height, and all standardized, whenever you want to screw something to the wall, so if I wanted to screw like a cabinet to the wall or shelving to the wall, I know exactly where the noggins are. They're not at all different heights on every single piece of plasterboard. They're all at standardized heights. And the other thing I always do when I'm doing a project like this is I take a lot of photographs all the way through the build. I'm sure most people do this now, but this really, this is what we did in the guest house when we renovated the guest house. Is we took hundreds of photos all the way through the build, and whenever, so as an example, we were installing something in one of the bathrooms, and I think it was the toilets actually, which we installed the toilets like a year after we installed the tiled floor, just because we've got so many bathrooms to do, and we suddenly thought, hang on a minute, is there the electric underfloor heating? Does it go as far as the toilet? Are we going to drill into the underfloor heating? We couldn't remember. So what we did was we looked back on our Google Photos and we found the photos of the heating elements before we installed the tiles, and sure enough we could see, oh, that's okay, they don't end there. And the same thing actually happened in the living room downstairs with the underfloor heating. We wanted to cut a section of the flooring out, the wooden flooring out, so we could have a flush doormat. And again, we weren't sure if the underfloor heating mat, where the underfloor heating mat ended, and we just looked at our photos and we could see, oh, that's okay, that's safe. So what I'm going to be doing here as well, when I put the electrics in, because I'm going to have plug sockets all the way along here, and computer network sockets and light switching sockets and quite a lot of electrics. I try and keep it really, really neat. But what I'll do is I will take photos of everything as I go, and that way, in the future, when I'm putting a shelf up or drilling into the wall, I will know exactly where the electric cables are without having to use a stud finder or an electric cable finder or anything like that. Just really important to keep a record of things. So standardize things, keep records, really important. Okay, so I'm going to crack on with everything now. What I'm going to do, I've got quite a full day in the office today, so I'm just putting in a couple of hours. It's like 7 in the morning now, so I'm just going to put in a couple of hours before work this morning. And yesterday I kind of ran out of time, so what I want to do this morning is I just want to finish putting in this second row of noggins, which I'm going to put all the way along here. I started it at the end, so that's what I want to do today. I think tomorrow I will tackle this leaning wall. Gosh, you probably can't see it on camera. The walls all here, they lean. So this wall here, it leans all the way in. It must be 60 centimeters, that's like 2 feet, tilted at the back to the bottom. And it's the same over there by the door. So I'm straightening all these walls up. So that's another thing I'm doing. Right, so I'm going to start putting in the noggins in, and let's get to work. Okay, so one little trick, what I've been using is, obviously I'm getting all these noggins in at exactly the same height. I want to make sure everything's accurate, everything's the same. So what I'm using is these spacer pieces. So I cut a spacer piece, lay it down. That's the wrong one. Spacer piece like this. This is top noggin there. I lay it there, and then when I'm screwing it, I've actually got something to screw against, because if I didn't have that there, it would be very difficult to get it, to stop it moving down when I'm screwing into it. So just a really useful tip if you're doing something like this. So I'm not bothering to use a measuring tape. I'm just doing it this way because it's quicker. There we go. Right, I know that's the piece. And then I'm going to go and cut that on the table saw. Okay, so I'm going to put this in. Okay. Happy with that. I'm not putting 2 screws in every noggin. I don't think it needs it. I think that's overkill. Somewhere, if the noggin's a little bit twisted, I might put 2 screws in to try and straighten it up. But generally, I'm just using 1 screw. I think that's plenty. After all, this is just a workshop. Okay. Okay, next. Let's get to the next one. Need another box of screws. Use the whole, how many is in this? So there's 100 of these monster screws. I used 100 screws so far. Just in this stretch of wall. So I'm going to need another at least 300. Maybe I'm going to order 400 more screws. Well, actually, no, I've got another box here, so probably use another 100 at least on the back wall. So 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I'm going to order maybe 300 more screws. Maybe I should order 400. Yeah. Incidentally, I found that this sort of thing, screws like this, are massively cheaper on Amazon. So like this is like 20 euros for this box of screws on Amazon. In the Brico, which is like the Home Depot here, you know, the DIY place, it's about 60 euros for a box of screws like this. And it's interesting. I think these big box stores, they make a loss selling things like, or break even, selling things like power tools, maybe garden furniture, the big kind of things when you go in and you think, similar to the supermarkets, you think, wow, that's really good value, that's amazing, this is like a cheap shop. So you buy things like your timber, your wood, maybe your patio furniture, maybe your barbecue, maybe a power tool, and then when you go and buy small hardware things like screws, that's where they make their margin. And you kind of like, if you're buying, you know, 500 euros worth of timber, you don't really think about buying 5 or 6 boxes of screws. You just think, oh yeah, you just buy the screws. You don't really think about the price of it, where really that is where they make their margin. So I've seen this in a lot of stores, a lot of different markets, like in supermarkets, things like this as well. Also, when you're buying camera gear in shops, quite often the camera might be cheap, but the accessories are very expensive. And when you're buying a high-ticket product, you don't really think about the price of the small things. It's like when you buy a car. You know, you buy the car, you might spend, you know, $20,000 or $100,000. Like I bought my Tesla. You know, you don't, oh, actually when I bought it's not really a thing with Tesla, but when I bought my Range Rover, you know, that was like 40 or 50,000 pounds. And then you don't really think about spending, like, you know, spending £1,000 on an upgraded satellite navigation system. You don't really think anything of it, or spending an extra $500 on a heated seat or something, you don't really think about that. Whereas if you were spending that for like spending £1,000 for a stereo system for your living room, you might think twice about it. Yeah, so you don't really, so it's this is where they get you. So yeah, anyway, buy your hardware like screws on Amazon, much cheaper. Just want to double check I'm getting this in the center. Yeah, that's there. Okay. There we go. I actually read this in a marketing manual because that's my business. I'm in marketing, and when you're selling, so salespeople in like a clothing store, if they're selling an expensive like $1,000 suit, or when someone comes in, what do you think they start with? Do they start with selling the person the expense, like a tie or socks or whatever, or shirts? No, they go straight in with a kill and recommend the $1,000 suit or whatever. So the person decides to buy the $1,000 suit or the $1,000 dress or whatever it is, and then they offer the tie or the shirt and the socks, because the person doesn't really think anything of buying those because they've just spent £1,000 on the suit. So yeah, that's a marketing trick there. And whereas if they started with the small price thing, the suit would seem really expensive. If you start with the $1,000 suit or the expensive suit, the shirt and the tie doesn't seem very expensive. I know, sorry, going off on a little tangent there about marketing. That's one of my little hobbies. Right, so one more, only 1, 2, 3 more noggins left. So one of the things, the height of this ceiling is around 3 meters, just under 3 meters, but I ordered timber that was 4 meters, so that I'm left with an offcut like this. This is the offcut for the uprights, and that's kind of ideal for making noggins with, so that's why I ordered such long timber. The problem is with this French timber, I'm finding, is it's not very high quality. It's bending, and it's a lot of it's misshaped, and yeah, it's pretty low quality stuff actually. So they don't sell engineered timber, which is kind of annoying really. Maybe I could get that online. I was watching a video where they use engineered timber, and when you use engineered timber, it never twists. Obviously, if this wasn't going to be a wall that I'm screwing lots of shelves to, and it wasn't a workshop, I'd be doing this out of metal stud, which is what they use in France, which is much quicker. I've never done that though, but I believe it's much quicker. Wow, I cut that wrong. Wow, so that's like massively cut wrong. Okay, I can use that on the next one. Let's try again. Don't know how I got that so wrong. Damn, I think I cut on the wrong side of the line. Oh dear. Let's measure it like that. I'm definitely not very good at carpentry. I'm not very good at measuring. That's my problem. There we go. Perfect. Okay. Like I said, I'm not a professional, just using common sense to do this really. So don't take it from me that this is the right way to do it. I'm just putting this up the best way I see fit. Works for me. Like I said, I'm sure a lot of the professionals are laughing at me, saying you can't do it like that. But yeah. Right, another one bites the dust. Okay, so I'm going to show you how I screw these in. So these are self-drilling screws. So what I do is I start off upright, wait for it to bite. So it's just the drilling part of it's just gone in, and now I just tip it over to the right angle. There we go. And just make sure that we're all level, which we are. There we go. And that's how I screw one of those screws in. Oh, I think that's close enough. Right. Oh. So I've just got the end wall to do, which I think will be quite quick because there's none of these beams in the way. Having these oak beams up here meant that I had different size noggins, made it a little bit more complicated to install the wall, but I'm hoping that the end wall there will be relatively simple. Then this wall here will be a mirror image of what I've just done, and then obviously I've got the wall with the window and the door. But yeah, I'm really happy with what I've done so far. Really happy with this Bosch professional miter saw, which I bought, which was a replacement for the Evolution saw, which kind of fell apart really, because I'd had it for so long. But no, this is really good saw, not too expensive either. So yeah, so that's me done for the day. I'm going to go back into the office now and do some office work, and then probably tomorrow I'm going to continue with the petitioning. Quick update on the workshop. I've been hard at work over the last few days, completed the stud work, which was a lot of work actually, secured it to the wall. I've put in an awful lot of work into making sure that everything is completely steady. That goes all the way around. Also secured it to the walls as well, and also framed around where the door is and also where the window goes. I've also started work on the plasterboard, or drywalling as they call it in the States. And I've also I've done the first fix electrics. So I've got 3 circuits going all the way around. I've got plug sockets all the way along here, plus computer network sockets. I put a provision in. I'm not putting any socket. I'm putting one socket on the end here. There's going to be no counter here or anything, so I basically just put 2 cable loops in there, which is a kind of future expansion. If I ever need to just put some sockets there, I've got a bit of cable slack. I've got a couple of sockets here which can go behind the shelving units. And then I'm planning on having a kind of like a bench here, creating like a little mini boot room. So when we do gardening and stuff like that, we can store our work clothes. So that's what this area here is going to be, and there's going to be a plug socket down by that carrier bag and tripod down there. There'll be a plug socket down there. So one little disclaimer here, I'm not an expert, I'm literally a DIYer. I know nothing about correct building procedures. I'm just doing things the best way I see fit, and after watching a few YouTube videos and so forth. So please don't use this as an instructional video, big kind of like disclaimer. I'm sure a lot of professionals will be saying I'm doing things the wrong way. Thing to bear in mind is this is just a workshop. This isn't like meant to be a house being done to building regulations. I'm quite happy with how this is just for a workshop. So anyway, the way I'm doing this is, let me just find where we're at. The first thing I'm going to do is just measure, we're going to put the first sheet of plasterboard here. So these sheets are almost the right length. It's a little bit too long, so I just need to trim a tiny bit off each one, and then I screw it to the wall. Okay, so the first sheet of plasterboard is going to go here. The only thing I've been having a problem with is lifting these boards. They are so heavy, and they can break really easily. In fact, the first sheet I tried to put in place broke. And it's over, so it's kind of a tricky procedure, but let's give it a go. Oh. There's a kind of technique to it. Good thing I've got steel toe cap boots, because I'm putting it down on my toe there, just to give myself some leverage. Oh dear me. There we go, so that's where the first sheet is actually going to go. That was wrong. Okay, I need to, there we go, that's okay, so obviously I need to screw in where the beams are, and what I'm actually doing is to make things easier. I've done this throughout the whole build actually, is make templates. So as an example, we've got a bottom noggin here. I could just do it with measuring it, but I found that I can speed things up so much by cutting a piece of wood to the right length. It's something that I've got to measure over and over again, and just make a template. It's quicker, faster, and more accurate. So I'm just going to mark it off there, and then boom, I know exactly where to put the screws in. There we go. And I've also got, this is where we've got the plug sockets. I'm trying to make the plug sockets all on the same height, so it looks correct. So I've got another one here, which I'm using for the plug sockets. So I'm just gonna put that there. There we go. And then this is the one for the top noggin, where I screw into it. There we go. So, and this has made life so much easier. There we go. Now what I've also done is, on the ground, I've also marked, before I put any of the plasterboard up with a magic marker, I marked on the floor where all of the upright joists are. So I know there's one around here. So what I'll do is I'll just go and grab this it level. And I've put the bottom of the spirit level where the mark is on his floor with the magic marker. There we go, that's in the center of the noggin. And just gonna, doesn't have to be 100% accurate, but just accurate enough to put screws in. And that's where I'm gonna put my screws in. I'll put the same to the, there we go. So now I know exactly where to put all the screws in. I've also got a hole cutter here for plug sockets. So now I know, and the reason I'm doing this before I install the plasterboard is, you know, marking this out. I could mark it out on the ground, but because I'm actually raising this plasterboard off the floor and trying not to have plasterboard sitting directly on the floor, because if I spilt something in here, you know, this stuff acts as a wick because it's made of plaster. It will just suck the water up. So the idea is you leave a gap along the bottom, and then I can, if I want to, I can fill that gap with expanding foam. I'm just going to put a very simple plastic baseboard, skirting board in all the way around anyway. The gap behind it I'll just fill with expanding foam. So I'm just going to, there we go. And now I've just got to fish the cable through, which I can't see anywhere. Oh, I about see it there. Okay. So this can be a little bit tricky. Sometimes I have to take the board off again just to get the cable. Okay, I can just about see it. Yeah, I'm going to have to take the board off. I forgot to unscrew it, so let's just do that now. By the way, this little gadget here is absolutely brilliant. I put the first few boards on just with a normal like impact driver or electric screwdriver. Really hard, because when you're putting screws in this stuff, it's really hard. You don't, you know, you're not meant to break the paper. You're meant to just screw them in enough so it's countersunk a little bit, but not so far that you leave a big hole. Also, you know, so I bought this special drywall screwdriver bit for my drill, and you can adjust it for different depths, but it's also magnetic, so it just makes life so much easier, and it puts them in at exactly the right depth. So that has had things up dramatically. It really has. So I'm gonna, there we go. There we go. Incidentally, this is how I've been lifting the plasterboard up, just with a simple lever. This is just a thing I had lying around, like a little jemmy bar I was using to install some flooring. But yeah, I just put that underneath, and then with my foot lifted the plasterboard up. So you can buy a gadget in the store which does that, but they were actually sold out, so I've created my own version. But yeah, using very quick, as you can see. Highly recommend this little gadget for screwing in. When you do it with an impact wrench, it's really, really quick. Impact driver, rather. Okay, just the screws at the top now. But in essence, that's how I'm putting these boards up. I think now it's time for a little bit of time-lapse.